history of naval warfare, three battles stand apart from everything else. Not because of who won, but because of what they cost. Stay until the end, because the #1 spot, the largest naval engagement in all of recorded human history, makes everything that came before it look like a skirmish. One battle changed the course of European history forever. One battle saw two ships, each weighing as much as a skyscraper, explode and vanish in under 90 seconds. And one battle involved 262 warships fighting across 200 miles of ocean simultaneously. In 1944, one Japanese battleship absorbed 17 bombs and 19 torpedoes and kept fighting for 4 more hours. This is the story of the 3 most brutal naval wars ever fought and the men who never came home. At the Battle of Trafalgar, 2 fleets fought so close that gun barrels were nearly touching. Men firing into each other through clouds of smoke so thick they couldn't see the ocean. The noise alone ruptured eardrums at 50 yards, and that was the civilized war. No glory, no clean deaths, just iron, fire, and the ocean taking everything down into the dark. These are the 3 most brutal naval wars in human history, and we're starting with number 3, because it gets worse from here. Before radar, before missiles, before anything that could kill at a distance, men sailed wooden boxes into cannon fire and hoped the other man blinked first. Most of the time, nobody blinked. 3 wars, 3 centuries. Combined death toll, over 30,000 men, most of them never found. They are still down there in the dark. This is their story. Number 3 is the one they called a British victory, 6,000 dead, 0 ships lost. You decide if that sounds like winning. We'll travel from the age of wooden warships and black powder cannons, through the steel giants of the First World War, to the largest naval battle ever fought in the history of mankind. No heroes, no glory, only the brutal, unforgiving truth of what war at sea actually looked like. We begin in the year 1805, off the coast of Spain. The age of sail, the age of cannon fire, and wooden hulls. October 21st, 1805, off Cape Trafalgar, Spain, 60 warships, 6,000 men who will not see tomorrow, and somewhere in that fleet, a British admiral who already knows he is sailing to his death. These ships were 200-foot-long floating fortresses of oak, each carrying up to 100 cast-iron cannons. A single broadside could hurl half a ton of iron in seconds. The noise alone was enough to shatter a man's eardrums. Nelson's strategy was unprecedented. Instead of meeting the enemy line to line, he split his fleet into 2 columns and drove them like spears directly into the Franco-Spanish formation, slicing it in 3. The first broadsides opened at noon. Hundreds of cannons fired simultaneously. The sound rolled across the water like thunder from every direction. Ships disappeared into clouds of black powder smoke within minutes. On the gun decks below, men worked in near darkness, choking on sulfur smoke, loading and firing as fast as their hands could move. A British crew could fire 3 broadsides for every 2 from their opponents. Speed was survival. When a cannonball struck a ship at full force, it didn't just pierce the hull. It turned the oak planks into a storm of wooden shrapnel, killing more men than the ball itself. Sailors called these splinters the real killer. By early afternoon, the battle had collapsed into dozens of individual ship duels across a 10-mile stretch of ocean. Vessels locked together at point-blank range, gun barrels nearly touching, firing directly into each other. At around 1:15 in the afternoon, Admiral Nelson was struck by a French sniper's musket ball on the deck of HMS Victory. The bullet entered his shoulder, pierced his lung, and lodged in his spine. He knew immediately it was fatal. The French flagship Bucentaure was reduced to a hulk by concentrated British fire, her decks swept clean by grape shot, over 200 of her crew dead or dying within 15 minutes of close engagement. The French and Spanish fleet was shattered. 18 of their 33 ships were captured or destroyed. Over 14,000 sailors were killed, wounded, or taken prisoner. The British lost 0 ships, not 1. May 31st, 1916. The North Sea. Britain's Grand Fleet, the largest naval force ever assembled, faces Germany's Imperial High Seas Fleet. 250 warships are about to collide in the gray waters between Denmark and Scotland. These were not the wooden ships of Trafalgar. A single dreadnought battleship weighed 28,000 tons, the equivalent of a small skyscraper, and carried 12-inch guns capable of throwing an 800-pound shell over 15 miles. Contact at 3:50 p.m. German shells found their range within minutes. HMS Indefatigable, a ship the size of a city block, 1,019 men aboard, took 2 direct hits and simply ceased to exist. 90 seconds, 1,000 men, gone. The problem was armor. British battlecruisers had been built for speed rather than protection. Their deck armor was too thin, and German shells plunging at long range penetrated straight through and detonated the ammunition magazines below. 20 minutes after Indefatigable went down, HMS Queen Mary exploded in the same catastrophic fashion. Over 1,200 men perished in seconds. Vice Admiral Beatty watched from his flagship as a second great ship simply vanished. As darkness approached, the German fleet attempted to cross behind the British, triggering a desperate night action of torpedo attacks, searchlights, and collision in the dark. Friendly fire was inevitable. By dawn on June the 1st, the German fleet had escaped through the darkness. The North Sea was silent, but littered for miles, with wreckage, oil slicks, floating bodies, and the burning hulks of ships that had been the most powerful machines on Earth. October 23rd to the 26th, 1944. The Philippine Sea and Leyte Gulf. Over 262 warships, nearly 2,000 aircraft, and 300,000 men. The largest naval battle in history. Japan was dying. Its oil supply had been strangled, its carrier air groups annihilated. Leyte Gulf was the all-or-nothing move, a complex 4-pronged attack designed to destroy the American invasion fleet before it could land. The battle opened before dawn on October 23rd, when American submarines caught 2 Japanese heavy cruisers in the Palawan Passage and sank them in minutes. The ocean floor was their hunting ground. The next day, over 250 American carrier aircraft launched in successive waves against the Japanese center force in the Sibuyan Sea, targeting the most powerful fleet Japan could still muster. The super battleship Musashi, Yamato's sister ship, absorbed 17 bombs and 19 torpedoes over 4 hours of air attack before she finally capsized. Over half her crew of 2,000 men went down with her. In the Surigao Strait, the southern Japanese force sailed into the most perfectly executed naval ambush in history. American battleships, many raised from the ruins of Pearl Harbor, crossed the Japanese T and opened fire. The destroyer USS Johnston, a ship so small she was barely a target, turned and charged directly at a Japanese fleet, 10 times her size. She fired everything she had. When she finally sank, the Japanese commander stood at attention and saluted her as she went under. By the time the Battle of Leyte Gulf ended, Japan had lost 4 aircraft carriers, 3 battleships, 10 cruisers, and 11 destroyers, along with any hope of stopping the American advance. The Imperial Japanese Navy would never fight again. 3 battles, 3 centuries, 3 moments when men sent everything they had into the sea and paid for it in blood. Trafalgar ended an empire's dream. Jutland left 2 great fleets bleeding. Leyte Gulf decided the fate of the Pacific. The ocean keeps its secrets. The thousands of men who went down with their ships still rest in those dark waters, off the coast of Spain, in the gray North Sea, in the blue depths of the Philippines. The sea made sure of that.